right, welcome, ZASLOW Show 2.0. It is a Friday, the 7th of April. Good to have you aboard. We, of course, are a Blue Wire podcast. However you're listening to the show, always appreciate you. Make sure you tell everybody. You tell your friends and family. Make sure you like, you rate, you comment. You do all that fun stuff. That's super helpful as well. It is a Friday show, so we're in a good mood. Last night, good things happened. Had the old double dip. Everybody likes a good old-fashioned double dip, and that's what we got last night. So we're in a great mood. You know it's a Friday because if you could see the video right now, you got your Johnny Cuba hat. I got the lid right there on top of the dome. Johnny Cuba, of course, official beer of ZASLOW Show 2.0. And of course, if it's a Friday, that means we're rocking the Johnny Cuba camo hat. It looks very good on me, right? All right, very good. So, hey, glad to have everybody aboard here on a Friday. And of course, everything ZASLOW Show 2.0 is always presented by our title sponsor. Our presenting sponsor is Anidjar and Levine Accident Attorneys. None of ZASLOW Show 2.0 is possible without the best accident attorneys around. Anidjar and Levine Accident Attorneys, 800-747-FREE. That's 800-747-3733. You make sure if you're involved in any kind of accident, you call 911 first. Got to make sure everybody's safe. And then you get an attorney on the phone immediately when you call 800-747-FREE. Anidjar and Levine Accident Attorneys, 800-747-3733. So, Panthers, Heat, that's the big story today. It's Friday, so you know we got to do big game, not a big game. I'm going to give you some big movies or not big movies as well. And we got the Panthers back in action tomorrow night in Washington against the Capitals. My cousin is actually the studio host for the Washington Capitals. We'll get him on the program for a few minutes here. We'll get some of his thoughts on the Panthers moving forward. But before we get to all that, let's go over what happened last night. So Panthers win 7-2. Last night was the most fun Panther game of the season. And ZASLOW, remember when they scored 9 goals a couple weeks ago against Montreal? No. Last night was so much more fun. Because if you remember after that game that they scored the 9 goals against Montreal, they won that game 9-5, and that game was stupid. There was too many goals. And it all came within the first 10 minutes of the game. You remember? I think the Panthers were up 4-3. It was stupid. And then the Panthers just, the rest of the game, it didn't feel like it had a whole lot of meaning. They were up 7-1 or something. Oh, no, it could have been 7-1, but I think they were up 9-3 at one point, 8-3 maybe, whatever it was. That game was just kind of stupid. Last night was an incredible night for the Panther fan because there's several things at play here. Number one, the game had so much juice to it from the get-go, because Ottawa's fighting for their playoff lives, and now they're eliminated. The Panthers took that ass last night, 7-2. But Ottawa's playing super hard. You got a lot. There was so much drama, so much on the line for both teams, of course. That game had everything from the fighting, from the dirty shit that Ottawa was pulling from the get-go, to all the goals that the Panthers scored, to the best crowd of the season. You were able to tell on television. That was an incredible crowd. That was a playoff type crowd. And I've already told you, this happens to be one of the only positives to the Panthers having such a weird season is you get games like last night that matter so much at this point of the season. These are all playoff games for the Panthers. So what's the result? A ton of drama last night, and you had a playoff crowd as the Panthers took that ass last night against the Senators. That was the most fun game of the season. And then you got to mention the goaltending. Alex Lyon last night was the big star of the game. He stopped 56 shots, second most in Panthers history. I think Luongo had a 60-save game. 56 saves by Alex Lyon, who has now won 5 straight games. The Panthers have won 5 in a row. That game was super high drama. And, it's so weird. So this is it's first period, I believe, or maybe it was early second period. And Tkachuk lands a very hard but very clean hit on one of the players in the Senators. It's not the Panthers' fault. It's not Tkachuk's fault. He was skating around with his head down. So Tkachuk lands a brutal hit. Totally clean. And then you get a melee. They're jumping on Tkachuk. It is a melee on the ice now. And for a play that was not dirty and was the Ottawa skater's fault for not skating with his head up, now you got the Senators resorting to the dirty shit. And they decided, you know what? We're going to do all that dirty shit to the goalie, to Alex Lyon. And it was Brady Tkachuk, Matthew's younger brother, who's the captain of Ottawa. Also, really good player. He's not Matthew, but he's a really good player too. And he slides into one play, slides into Alex Lyon, totally takes him out, then bumps him on the way back, and you end up getting a goal scored. It was 3-0 Panthers, and that made it 3-1 shortly after that, where Alex Lyon, like Mulder was saying on the broadcast, that Alex Lyon, they are clearly decided to F with him. They're playing a mental game with him now. They're angry over the Tkachuk hit. The Senators are pissed off, and Alex Lyon, like now he's like not physically hurt, he's mentally involved now because of what's going on, and the officials are not handling it. And so now the Senators score. I was so pissed. I was not pissed that it made it 3-1. It's not that big a deal. I was pissed that the officials were allowing the Senators, A, to take cheap shots, and B, after what was a clean hit from Matthew Tkachuk. And Mueller did a great job of the broadcast telling everybody, this is what happens when the officials don't have control of the game. Because then shortly after that, I believe it was Tkachuk again, you got a scrum in front of the goalie, bumps into Alex Lyon, and purposely falls on him and pulls him down. And it's like, get the hell away from the goal. So now you got all kinds of fighting going on. Jabari Smith is fighting, Radko Gudas is fighting, Matthew Tkachuk is fighting, and you got the one moment where Matthew Tkachuk was fighting, and at the same time, Brady Tkachuk was fighting, I believe, Mark Stahl. Stahl got his ass kicked. So you had both Tkachuks fighting at the same time. Now, I know a lot of Panther fans were probably like, oh, Matthew and Brady should fight each other. Matthew Tkachuk has already talked about this. They said it will never, ever happen, that they made a promise to their mother that they will never fight each other during games. Matthew said there's no scenario where they're going to fight each other. But that's such a weird one because the Senators are mad at the Panthers. They're specifically mad at Matthew Tkachuk. And if like a Senator player does something dirty to Matthew Tkachuk, like something that either A, hurts him, or B, can potentially hurt him, does Brady Tkachuk get upset? I mean, he's the captain of the Senators. Like, his number one job is to the Senators, but it's also his brother, and he doesn't want his brother to get hurt. So if a Senator player does something dirty to Matthew Tkachuk as a result of all of this nonsense, like, what? How does Brady feel? It's like, yeah, good job. Got to stand up for our teammates. Or is it like, hey, that's my brother. Maybe, the dirty shit that can get guys hurt. Maybe we don't do that. Like, that's weird, right? So I was having that conversation with my son last night where what do they do in that spot? And I don't know the answer. It's such a weird scenario. And by the way, so we're super into this game. And this was when, I said to my son, I go, and after one of these fights, right? Tkachuk, who loves all this shit. I got to tell you, Matthew Tkachuk, he might be the most likable player in franchise history. Yup. One season in. Who else have they had on this team that you can get behind like this guy? That trade was a grand slam home run for the Panthers. Go look at what Jonathan Huberdeau has done this year. I'll tell you what he's done. Nothing. He has not been good for the Flames, and they got 6 more years of him. Now, would that have been different here in Florida if he stayed here? Maybe, but maybe the Panthers sold super high on Huberdeau, and they knew at this point at his age that eventually there's going to be a valley, all right? And it's right now. And you look at Tkachuk, who might be the best American-born player in the National Hockey League. This guy is so likable, super talented, does all the gritty stuff in front of the goalie. He could be a little bit dirty in times too, and you need a little bit of that in hockey. He plays that style that works in the playoffs. You need that grittiness. And He's willing to fight. He's willing to do everything out there. He gets excitable on the bench. He loves playing hockey. And after he's fighting yesterday, he's doing the Hulk Hogan to the crowd. He's getting the crowd fired up. I think he's the most likable player in Panthers history. Who else would it be? Who else would you have? You think about guys like Pavel Bure. Okay. Bure was amazing and so much fun to watch. But Tkachuk, man, he does everything, and you could see he loves the game. He is so easy to get behind. He is so likable. And, hey, we'll see what happens if they get to the playoffs. That's why they acquired him. But all of that you saw last night, spearheaded by him, by something he did, is exactly why they got this guy. I was so fired up watching that game last night. It was the best game of the season in a game that they smoked the Senators. And so how about this? My favorite part of the game last night. Panthers are up 5-1, okay? Blowout, right? Except Panthers just took 2 penalties, and one of them was on the delayed penalty. So they're getting a 5-on-3 now for a full 2 minutes. This is how you allow a team back in the game. What if they score on the 5-on-3, which is likely, and then they do it in enough time that they still have the 5-on-4? You get 2 goals right there, all of a sudden it's a 5-on-3 game. This is up 5-1. This is actually a big moment. This is like 6 minutes or so left, I think, in the second period. This is actually a pretty big moment in the game. And the Alex Lyon, again, phenomenal. So many saves on the power play. A bunch of saves down 5 against 3. And in the closing moments of the 5-on-3, when the Panthers officially killed off, this was the best moment of the game.
Senators hold it in. Chance in front is knocked away. Oh, what penalty killing. Alex Lyon's got 41 saves. Chance the other way. Score! It's Nick Cousins out of the box.
Oh, for the Ottawa Senators, the only thing that can make it feel better is a hug from your mother.
That shit was awesome. Nick Cousins there capitalizes on the rush right out of the box as the Panthers kill off the entire 2 minutes of 5-on-3. That crowd was going apeshit. What a night. What a great night. They end up adding a couple more there. They go on, they win 7-1. That was so much fun. So here's where we're at right now. Now, the Penguins won last night. The Islanders won last night. So we're no closer to clinching that spot than we were a couple nights ago. We're still in a major dogfight. All 3 of these teams with 3 games remaining. The Panthers are at Washington tomorrow, and then next week hosting Toronto, hosting Carolina. So the Panthers really have their hands full still with 3 games remaining, but they've won 5 in a row. I had them dead in the water a couple weeks ago. I'm the first one to raise my hand and say, hey, was I doing a reverse jinx? I don't know. We'll find out. I don't want to jinx the reverse jinx, but I had them dead in the water a couple of weeks ago. And right now, it is so much fun the way they're trying to streak into the playoffs. So, number 1 playoff wildcard spot is still the Panthers. Islanders, same amount of points, but the Panthers have the tiebreak because of regulation wins. They're number 2, and the Penguins are 1 point back. Now, as far as tonight goes, Panthers are not playing tonight. I don't think the Penguins and Islanders are playing tonight either. They're not playing because there are no games actually tonight, which is weird. So, Panthers tomorrow night, Penguins tomorrow afternoon are at Detroit. Now, Detroit's not making the playoffs, but that's not an easy game for the Penguins. All right, so that's 1 o'clock tomorrow. The Islanders, let's see. The Islanders, it looks like they are off tomorrow. So, no, they're playing tomorrow night. They're hosting Philadelphia. Philadelphia is terrible. So, like I said, we're going to talk to my cousin, studio host of the Washington Capitals, Ben Raby. He'll join us. Panthers are at the Capitals tomorrow night. Panthers definitely have the toughest matchup of the 3. But 5 wins in a row, and Alex Lyon. So, let me give you some of Paul Maurice here. Second most saves in regulation in Panther history. 56 saves last night for Alex Lyon. A little bit troublesome that the Panthers allowed 58 shots by the Senators. But here's Panthers coach, the murderer of fun, Paul Maurice, on the goalie. He only was willing to talk about Alex Lyon after the game.
There were two things. First thing is, Alex Lyon was second star. I'm just saying. I know Brandon hit a milestone, but that one to me. We can talk about Alex today. I'm going to come down tomorrow. I'm not going to bring the players down. If you guys want to talk about any other part of the game, we can talk about it tomorrow. But we can talk about the goalie right now if you want to talk about the goalie.
Yeah, unbelievable. I mean,
it was great. I
second
think
in all time and the franchise regulation game.
So it was so good. I almost felt he made some big saves in the first, but it was almost good that he got that many pucks because it was in some ways a change of possessions because they put everything at the net and that just warmed him up and made him feel really good. Then you get into that kind of second period and then it's a special teams battle and you get to 5-on-3 and big saves there. And I think the game looked like it ended halfway through. It did at 5-1. But at the same time, it got to stay that way because he just kept making these saves at the time. And then you get into the third, and Barkov's not going to see the ice, and Reinhardt's not going to see the ice. And even with that, though, the one guy that was dialed in from start to finish right straight through, regardless of what was going on in the game, was Alex, and he was good in all areas. It was just a breakout pass. He had one of our better breakout passes of the night. But I'm happy for him because he's worked really hard, right, to be that good. He's from his first tour up and then coming back in, he comes to the rink even keel, but works very, very hard at his game. So I'm happy for him because he's earned it. It hasn't been easy, and he's good for him, and then, of course, good for us.
Hey, I hope Paul Maurice ends up being right. I hope the Panthers, obviously I hope they end up being right. Is it possible that the new style of play, which is specifically for the playoffs, that it's actually taken them the whole season to really get down, and then they'll benefit in the playoffs? Now, look, we'll ask my cousin about this. It's super important for the Panthers to finish. You want to get into the playoffs. Anything can happen, especially Stanley Cup playoffs. But that number one wild card spot is a big difference from the number 2 wild card spot. The difference in playing Boston in round 1 versus playing Carolina or maybe New Jersey, major, major difference. I was so into that game last night. Man, that felt good. And of course, we got the double dip. Let's get to the Heat here in a second. Hey guys, when life gets you salty, you make yourself a margarita, right? Well, when water damage gets you mold, you call or text Water Cleanup of Florida, all right? Water Cleanup of Florida knows that unexpected property damage, it'll overtake your life. It could overtake your business. When you call Water Cleanup of Florida, you don't have to stress because you're letting their 60-plus years of combined experience handle your restoration project from start to finish. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. My guys, the Greensteins at Water Cleanup of Florida, they're fully licensed, insured general contractor that's providing the one-stop shopping that busy homeowners and business owners require. Their entire objective is to make the cleanup and insurance process painless and hassle-free. Water Cleanup of Florida serves the entire Tri-County area, Miami, Broward, Palm Beach counties. Call or text anytime, 954-900-8635. You could also visit their website, wcufl.com. You could check out more than 80, if you don't believe me, you could go check out more than 85-star reviews on Google. That's right. Water Cleanup of Florida, 954-900-8635. Water Cleanup of Florida, we clean up your schmutz. Okay, there you have it. So, Panthers get that dub last night. Unbelievable crowd. I make the playoffs. Close it out. That crowd was sick last night. I wish I was there. All right. It's Passover, Seder's. Anyway, that's okay. We were still watching the whole game. The Heat last night kicked the shit out of the 76'ers. The Heat win 129-101. And this is why I've been saying, look, the Sixers played all their guys. The Heat played all their guys, too. I was wondering yesterday, excuse me, is Bam going to play or they're going to punt away that game? They're going to say, hey, we only need one more win to win the Southeast, which guarantees us at least the number 7 spot. In order to get number 6, we need to win our final 3. Nets need to lose their final 2, which is Philadelphia and Orlando. Probably not going to happen. Do we punt away Thursday and then make sure we get one of the games Friday in D.C. or Sunday against Orlando? They didn't do that. And yesterday we had Jared Greenberg on the show, NBA on TNT, and He essentially said they're not doing that. Now, Lowry's not going to wind up playing tonight because, like Jared said yesterday, he doesn't play back-to-backs, and especially since you're not going to need back-to-backs in the postseason, that's not really an issue here. But the Heat last night, this is what I've been saying, and I've been consistent on this. Boston will be a very difficult matchup for Miami. Obviously, Milwaukee. No one wants to play Milwaukee. They're the best team in the league. But if the Heat were to play Philly in the first round, I will pick the Heat to win that series. Totally. And so now, that possibility is still there, albeit unlikely. With the win last night, the Heat clinch at least number 7. They are Southeast Division champions. It's looking like they're going to host Atlanta in the play-in game on Tuesday night. We'll find out soon enough. But I'm not the only one who's saying how Miami has a good chance to beat Philly in the first round. Last night, the Heat, and it wasn't like, Jimmy went off or Tyler went off. They methodically beat the shit out of that team. And I'm not the only one talking like this. We heard Jared Greenberg yesterday. I'm listening this morning. Starting lineup, SiriusXM NBA radio. Vince Goodwill was filling in for Isola. So is Vince and my man Brian Scalabrine. And Goodwill, straight up, they let the show talk about Heat Sixers, straight up said the Heat will beat the Sixers in a playoff series. And I totally believe that. And you saw a lot of it last night where last night, the Heat, Philly does not know how to play against the Heat. The Heat, they switch up the defenses. They go to the zone. They go to man. And Embiid doesn't know what to do. And Doc Rivers doesn't know what to do. I mean, talk about coaching circles around Doc Rivers. The Heat keep adjusting the defense, junking up the defense. You think Doc Rivers is calling timeout there? You think he knows what to do? They know what to do. The Heat would absolutely beat the Sixers in a playoff series. I've been saying it. I've been very consistent about it. And last night was the type of effort you're hoping to get in the playoffs. See, we've had hardly anything to be happy about during this regular season. And it's hard to really feel that it's all going to come together in the playoffs. But last night was that type of effort that you're hoping to get in the playoffs, where you know your team is coming to play. There have been so many games this year where the Heat just straight up did not come to play. They very clearly wanted to beat the shit out of that team. And especially, you saw this with Jimmy was great, but you saw Jimmy shushing everyone. Jimmy Butler has a lifetime vendetta against the Philadelphia 76ers. You put a lie detector test on all those Philly fans. They know that if the Heat play the Sixers in the first round, Jimmy Butler's coming to take that ass. They know. That was a performance last night that you're hoping you get throughout the playoffs, where you get a team that is out there going all out for 48 minutes, and we haven't seen enough of that through the regular season. But Jimmy so badly wants to play Philly. You know that. It's a lifetime vendetta he has against them for letting him walk. Tobias Harris over me? Tobias Harris over me? The Heat will beat them. That team, I don't know what it is. You obviously don't trust Harden. You obviously don't trust Rivers. Embiid doesn't win the big games. He's never been out of the second round. This year, if it's Miami, he won't get out of the first round. But the Heat can win their final two. But Brooklyn has Philadelphia. I think they're at Philadelphia. And they have Orlando to close out. So tonight, Brooklyn has Orlando at home. Be keeping an eye on it at the same time as the Heat game. But if they win that, Heat are locked into 7. Brooklyn's locked into 6. Philadelphia's already locked into 3. If somehow Brooklyn loses to Orlando tonight, which is not going to happen, then Brooklyn hosts Philly on Sunday in a game that you know Philly's not going to play Embiid because Philadelphia is locked into number 3. So it's a pipe dream that the Heat can jump up to 6. But man, they would absolutely beat Philadelphia in the playoffs. They, from start to finish last night, like they really methodically beat the shit out of that team. Philly played all their guys. He played all their guys. Jimmy loves playing against the Sixers. Loves playing against the Sixers. All right. So that's what you got going on tonight. You got the Heat tonight. Panthers are back in action tomorrow. We're going to get my cousin on the show in a few minutes here. We'll talk about the Panthers with him. He knows a lot more about it. Look, he's a hockey guy. But right now, you're probably saying to yourself, Zaslow, you're saying a lot of things, a lot going on. And I got to know, is it a big game? Or is it not a big game? That's right. Big game or not a big game, always brought to us here on Fridays by Brunt Insurance. BruntInsurance.com, 954-589-2204. Hey, you need homeowners insurance. You got to make sure, God forbid, something happens or some kind of disaster. That'll keep you up at night, because if something like that happens, who's going to pay for it? You're going to have a hard time putting together the money for that. This stuff's expensive. Well, that's why you got to have homeowners insurance. And I've been using Brunt Insurance for almost 10 years now. And I know when I lay my head to sleep at night on my sheets and Giggles, Eucalyptus pillow, I know that if something were to happen, I'm good to go, because Greg Brunt and his team at Brunt Insurance, they've made sure that I'm taken care of. From Pensacola to the Keys and beyond, Brunt Insurance and Financial Services delivers that comprehensive insurance and financial solutions tailored to your needs. Since 2013, they specialize not just home, auto, life insurance. The market's confusing out there. Don't just go on Google and put in insurance. No. There's a reason why I've stuck with Greg Brunt and Brunt Insurance, like I said, for almost 10 years now, and I'm not going anywhere. I'm a lifetime customer now. Why would I use anyone else when I know I'm covered and taken care of? BruntInsurance.com, 954-589-2204. Not just homeowners, you need renters insurance, you need condo insurance, the most affordable prices and the best coverage anywhere. Let Greg Brunt and his team at Brunt Insurance, they'll make sure that you're taken care of. Again, BruntInsurance.com, 954-589-2204. Let's get to big deal or not a big deal. All right, big deal or not a big deal. Tonight, 7 p.m., Bally Sports Sun. Your Miami Heat at the Washington Wizards. Now, I just told you. I told you what's on the line here. The Heat need to win these final two games. They need the Nets to lose their final two games. The Wizards, terrible. There's no reason that the Heat, even on the second night of a back-to-back, shouldn't be able to go in there and win this game tonight. Now, this game, whether it's big or not big, is contingent on what do the Nets do. Well, the Nets game's at 7:30, so the Heat game's going to end before the Nets game ends. As a result, Heat at Wizards, that's a big game. If it were the other way around, it would not be a big game, because it'd be contingent on the Nets. But first, we need to take care of our business, so that's a big game. Big game or not a big game? Tonight, 8 p.m., Fox. WWE SmackDown. Now, I don't know if my tribal chief, the undisputed Universal WWE Heavyweight Champion of the world, Roman Reigns, is going to be on the show, but they have announced that Triple H is going to kick off the show. He's got an announcement, just like he kicked off the show Monday night for Raw. Why is this important? Raw was terrible, and there's concern that there's a power shift, that things are changing, and that Vince McMahon is taken back over of creative from Triple H. Tonight will be a good sign as to whether or not that's true. If Vince is there, if the show's not that good, if Vince is not there, then Monday night was a one-off kind of deal, because they were still in LA, and Vince, of course, was there for WrestleMania. So, WWE SmackDown, that's a big game. All right. Big game or not a big game? Saturday night, 7 p.m., Bally Sports, Florida. Florida Panthers at Washington Capitals. Now, I already laid it out for you. The Panthers need to win. They control their own destiny. It's a super tight race there for those two wildcard spots. The Islanders play tomorrow night. The Penguins play in the afternoon. So the Penguins may win that game in the afternoon at Detroit. And then the Panthers, you'll see, having not played yet, will have dropped down to number 2. So the Panthers are going to have to take care of that business. Panthers at Capitals. Tuesday's Toronto. Thursday's Carolina. Capitals are the only, auto win. The only, easy kind of game, if you will. Panthers at Capitals. That's a big game. Yep. That's right. Big game or not a big game. Saturday night, 7:30. Apple Plus. That's how you watch the MLS games. Dallas FC at Inter Miami CF. That's right. A big football matchup. Now, I'm a soccer guy, so sometimes I'll use the regular lingo, but I'll call it soccer the rest of the way. If I say football, sometimes you're a little bit, you get confused. I want to make sure everybody knows this is an inclusive show, so when I talk about, the beautiful game football, I'll call it soccer here. I'm an inaugural Inter Miami season ticket holder, okay? Dallas at Inter Miami. Leo Campana making his season debut. Phil Neville said yesterday, calling out his guys. Pizarro needs some goals. Inter Miami's lost 4 games in a row. Dallas at Inter Miami. That's a big game. If the why do I keep trying to say the Panthers? If Inter Miami loses their 5th consecutive game, the season's going to start to slip away early on. All right, finally, I got one more for you here. Saturday night, 10 p.m. ESPN Plus, UFC 287. Live from Miami-Dade Arena. Are they calling it the new name yet? I don't even know how to pronounce it. Let's just go Miami-Dade Arena. UFC 287, a monster card for the middleweight championship. Pereira versus Adesanya. Can Adesanya get some revenge? Also, you got Gibson versus Jorge Masvidal. This is come on, Masvidal, Miami? Tickets are $1 million. That's why we're not going. But I'm very into it. UFC 287, that's a big game. Yes! And that right there is another edition of Big Game or Not a Big Game, brought to us as always on Fridays by Brunt Insurance. Let Greg Brunt and his team take care of all your needs. Homeowners, auto, life insurance, boat, renter. Come on, all of it. 954-589-2204, bruntinsurance.com.